name is Hailey, and we're going to be teaching you about samples and the rules of randomness.
This is Andrew, and we'll be teaching you how to do this through 5 example problems.
Equality, an equation that uses symbols for less than and greater than. Fair is when a situation is unbiased and is a question that is not swayed. How to do problems with inequality, as well as how to recognize a function in its domain and range. We also will teach how to recognize a biased statement. This is the x values of a function. The range is the y values of a function. The function is a relationship of expressing variables. The bias is a favor or prejudice for or against something.
Okay, so for problem number 420, it asks, do you agree that it is important to make ending homelessness a high priority? Now, when answering this question, it's important to look at keywords to let you know if it's bias or not bias. And you see, it says to make ending priority. It says when it asked, do you agree? It's kind of implying that other people are agreeing, and the question is swayed to want to make you answer that yes, you do agree. Therefore, it is bias. Problem 420b says, which of the following factors is most important to address in order to slow global climate change? This question is biased because it's implying that climate change is a large problem, and which makes it biased because the question is already implying the answer it's looking for. Problem 420c is how important is it to change teacher salaries? This question is also biased. It's implying in the question, it's worded in a way that's implying that raising teacher salaries is important because it's saying how important is it? This question is not a freestanding question and is looking for a certain answer. Problem 421 says, consider each of the following research conditions. For each one, write a research question that would be a subject to such a condition. The first condition is A. Sampling must be used because the population is too large to measure. A possible question would be to use for this would be, do a majority of teens smoke? A sample size must be used because of how many teens there are in the entire world. You would not be able to test all of them. It would be impossible. You'd take a sample from a varied area to get your results. Problem 421b. The conditions are, sampling must be used because measuring the population would destroy it. This possible question would be, how many fluid ounces in a usual small drink? You must use a sample size for this because it would destroy all these products to measure how many fluid ounces are in each of them. You would need to just use a sample of them and get an average for your answer for this problem. The condition for 421c is, a census can be used because the population is not very large. A possible question for this would be, which people in this class smoke? A census may be used because if you're in a class, there's probably 20 to 30 people, which you can take a census of everyone to get more accurate results. And the last condition is, a census can be used even though the population is very large. And a possible question for this would be, how many people live in the USA? Now, a census would be used for this because you can't take a sample for how many people live somewhere. You actually have to count all of them, which is why you do a census even though the population is so big that you're measuring. 422a is, the absolute value of 5x plus 8 is greater than or equal to negative 4. Now, when solving this, you don't necessarily need to use algebra. What I just thought to myself is, when is the absolute value of 5x plus 8 greater than or equal to negative 4? And the answer is this. All real numbers that you plug in for x are going to make a number that's greater than or equal to negative 4. This one, you don't need to use algebra as much. It's more logical thinking, and just look at the problem before you dive in and start trying to solve it in a harder way than you need to. Now, 422b is a little bit different. You can't really do what you did for 422a. In this one, start by factoring it. I factored x squared plus x minus 20 is less than 0. I factored this into x minus 4, x plus 5 equals 0. So as you can see, I changed the inequality into an equation, into a factored equation. Then, with x minus 4 equals 0, x would be 4, and x plus 5 is 0, x would need to be negative 5 for it to be 0. So 4 and negative 5 are the boundaries. Now plot these boundaries on a dotted line, or number line. So as you can see, I plotted negative 5 here, and since it's just less than, you put a non-filled in circle, and then 4 over here with a non-filled in circle. And then everything in between there should work. Now to test this, plug in a number between negative 5 and 4. If it works, try another. If it does work, you are correct. I've already tried 2 and 3, and it worked for both of these. So our answer for this equation would be negative 5 is x is greater than negative 5, but less than 4. You can always check your work by plugging in numbers that are greater than negative 5 and less than 4 to ensure that you're correct. The next problem is 4-23. It's asking us to solve each equation in terms of y. The equation it gives you is x squared equals x, parentheses 2x minus 4 plus y. Start by foiling x, and then parentheses 2x minus 4. You will get 2x squared minus 4x plus y. Because x times 2x is 2x squared, and x times negative 4 is minus 4x. Now move your 2x squared and 4x over to the side with x on it. So you'll get x squared minus 2x because you subtracted it to the side, plus 4x because you added 4x to the other side equals y. Now you're almost done, but just simplify your results and add like terms. Adding negative 2x squared plus x is negative x squared plus 4x equals y. And that is your final answer. The next number, b, for 4-23 gives you x equals 3 plus parentheses y minus 5 squared. Start by subtracting the 3 to the other side, so you get x minus 3 equals y minus 5 squared. Then radical the x minus 3 and the y minus 5. This will give you plus or minus root x minus 3 equals y minus 5, because the root of y minus 5 squared is just y minus 5. From here, just add the negative 5 to the other side, so it'll be 5 plus or minus x minus 3. Remember to have the plus or minus, because when doing radicals, it's always going to be plus or minus. This is your final answer. Last problem, it says, state the domain and range of each graph, then whether or not it's a function. The first graph looks like this. Now, to find the domain is all the x values as stated in our vocabulary section in the beginning of this video. X's are all going to be, the x is going to be less than or equal to 3. As you can see, the x's, they go out to 3 here, but they don't go over it, so it's always going to be less than or equal to 3. Now, as you can see, they're always larger than negative 3, because down here is negative 3, so x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 3. So that should be a negative sign. And done. So that is the domain. Now to find the range, which is the y values of like what y can be, it's going to be, look, y, it comes all the way up to 3 and touches 3, but it's not over it. So y is going to be less than or equal to 3. And then as you can see, the y values go all the way down to 3, but not below it. So y is always going to be greater than or equal to 3. Negative 3, that is. And now whether it's not a function. Now to find out, you just use the vertical line test. If you put something like a vertical line like this pen and it crosses the function twice, then it's not a function, which this does. Therefore, it is not a function. Vertical line test. Now, the next graph it gives you is this. Define the domain. You look, x comes all the way out to positive 6 and touches it, the filled in line, but doesn't go past it. So x is less than or equal to 6. But then you look and it goes all the way down to -4, but doesn't go beyond that. So x is greater than or equal to -4. That is the domain. Now, the range, the y values. The range, y goes all the way up to 5, but not over it, and then it stops right here at 5, and then goes all the way down to y equals -2. Therefore, y is greater than or equal to -2, but y is less than or equal to 5, as you can see. The next graph it gives you is this. Oh, my bad. Now, to find if 424b is a function, the vertical line test clearly shows that it's not, therefore this is not a function. Now, sorry about that. The next graph it gives you is this. Now, first we find the domain. Now, x, it goes all the way out to 6, not past it, so x is going to be less than or equal to 6, and then as you can see, it extends down this way for continuously. Therefore, x is probably just going to be greater than -infinity, because we can't tell the extent it goes to. So that's going to be the domain. Now the range would be y. The y value is it goes all the way up to 4, but it stops there, so y is going to be less than or equal to 4. And then as you can see, it goes all the way down continuously, so y, just like x, is going to be y is less than -infinity. Now whether it's not a function, the vertical line test shows that it is a function. So yes, it's a function. And there's our domain and range. Now the very last graph it gives us is this. Now, we find the domain, and we see that the x values, it extends this way continuously as well as this way because of the two arrows. Now this means that x could really be anything, and that x is the domain. When I refer to x, I mean the domain. So x is just going to be greater than -infinity, and x is less than infinity.